Hey everybody, Jake here and welcome to the hobby. We are doing an AMA today where you guys threw a bunch of questions at me and I do my best to dodge every last one of them. So let's get started right away. First up we have Benny who asks, hey Jake, if you need to sell an entire large Pokemon collection, would you sell everything individually or sell it all together? I would say if you're looking to sell off your entire Pokemon collection, and there's a lot of different scenarios about why you might want to do that, you're probably needing the money right away. It's probably an emergency to pay off something that's really large, and that could be really anything. Life throws a lot of stuff at you. So if you need to sell everything at once, then the best case scenario is to sell your whole entire collection all together. You will be able to sell everything all together, but you're probably not going to get the best deal. Most people will want some form of discount because there's probably items inside of your collection that they're probably not interested in. They're probably interested in most of your collection, but not all of it. So if you sell all together, you're gonna get a lower price. The best way to get the absolute most value out of your collection is to sell each individual piece, but that's going to take a lot more time because when you sell everything individually, the person that wants it most is going to be willing to pay top dollar for each individual item. This used to be a real challenge for me because I have a large collection. Listing each individual item on a place like eBay takes a lot of time. One area that has really changed is sealed products. Some of the new marketplaces like StockX has really completely changed the game when it comes to selling sealed products. A big difference now is that if I want to sell a large sealed collection, I can go on StockX and sell it right away. That's going to be a huge game changer. I don't even have to look for a seller. They already have a buyer who's willing to buy my products from me. I don't even know who it is. I don't have to take pictures of my products. I can just click sell and get instant money for my collection. And that's a huge plus because I know that if there were to come an emergency, I am able to sell off large pieces of my collection very quickly. And that's really important because a lot of times collectibles like to be intangible. They're hard to sell off. They're illiquid when it comes to money in general. But yeah, if I were to sell off my whole entire collection, I would say you can sell it off all at once, but you're not going to get the best deal. Next up, we have Daniel who asks, hey Jake, financial question. So we have another one. With so many people holding celebrations, do you predict it'll really grow in value over the course of the next 5 to 10 years? Personally, I know some people hoarding celebrations. You and me both. I definitely know some people who have some sealed celebrations products inside their collection. If you are holding the cards inside of celebrations, the individual cards, I think you're unlikely to really see much value in that area. Just because there's a lot of celebration cards out there. It's a pretty small set and most people have some level of subset cards inside their collection, and I think that's okay. I think it should be a fairly easy set to collect. How expensive will sealed celebrations products be in 5 to 10 years? I will promise you it's probably going to go up in value. How dramatic are we expecting? I don't know. It really depends. The hobby has to continue to grow. Do you think Pokemon card collecting as a hobby will continue to become more legitimate and grow? If the scene continues to grow over the next 5 to 10 years, if we get more and more collectors into the hobby, then yes, the value of sealed celebration products will grow. Probably around the same pace as Generations, maybe slower, but if you look at sealed Generations products, which was the set that came out 5 years ago for the 20th anniversary, they're really, really expensive nowadays. A single booster pack of Generations is going for well over $40. So it just really depends on, do you see the hobby growing or not? I don't think that having a bunch of sealed products inside of some people's collection is going to matter. Some people say they're hoarding it, but I think most people will either crack open their products or sell it off in the next 2 or 3 years. Most people don't have the mindset to hold something 10 years. That's a long time to hold on to a product. That's a really long time. Most of you guys probably don't have things inside of your collection or inside of your own personal room that's been around for 10 years. You might have some, but most things don't last that long. People like to sell it off down the line anyway. Next question comes from Sophia, who says, hey Jake, what set do you think will be worth more in the long run, Evolving Skies or Celebrations? Another Celebrations question. Long term, I know Evolving Skies is a really good set, but I still think Celebration has it beat. And a big part of it just comes down to the fact that Celebrations is going to have that memorableness long term. People don't really remember a lot of the sets that came out 5 years ago. There's two sets that I can think of off the top of my head that came out 5 years ago, and that was XY Evolutions and Generations. And a big part of why I remember that is because those sets are related to the 20th anniversary. Celebrations is tied to something that's very, very memorable. It's gonna stick in people's memory for a long time. Evolving Skies is a really cool set, but there's a lot of really cool sets out there, and they just sort of wash together long term. People will forget about Evolving Skies in a couple of years, and we'll move on to the next big thing. I'm not saying Evolving Skies won't go up in value. It's a great set, but I think long term, I still think Celebrations has a small edge over Evolving Skies. Next up, we have Dragonfly, who asks, "Hey Jake, are November and December bad months to buy cards because of Christmas? Is January and February better?" It depends. All of these questions, sometimes they just depend. I would say November and December are fine time to pick up Pokemon card products. You can actually get some of the best deals around Black Friday and the holiday. You just have to be a savvy shopper. I'm not saying there's going to be best deals everywhere, but there are some great discounts around Black Friday. Last year, Walmart had a great deal. For $20, you got yourself the Jirachi GX collection. Came with 10 booster packs for $20. 10 booster packs, $20, that's $2 per booster pack. That's a fantastic deal. Doesn't even matter if it's the worst booster pack imaginable. It was still a fantastic deal. So you have to be on the lookout because there can be good deals. But overall, I would say yes, if you're willing to wait around January to February, there's a more abundant supply of products because most people aren't really buying stuff then. It's sort of outside of the buying fever season. One more question before we take a quick break. We have Hollow Seeker who says, "Hey Jake, what is a good goal to keep when collecting modern cards or sealed products? Should you only buy cards that are more popular or cards that are unique mechanics or style?" That's a really great question. There's a ton of cards that come out every single year, an abundant amount. So which card should you be collecting and which card should you avoid? I would say always collect what you enjoy the most first, but for me, I really like to focus on the gems. I like cards that take my breath away, cards that I say, wow, these cards are really, really popping. These cards are gorgeous. So to give you guys some example of cards that I think are just like outstanding, these are cards that I think are gorgeous, great display products, and products or cards that I like to show off. So last year, my favorite card from last year was Kanazawa Pikachu. Really, really gorgeous card. There's so much going on in the artwork. It's insane. Just a beautiful card. It didn't get my #1 card from last year's list, but it was #1 in my heart. My favorite card so far this year is the Beauty Looking Back Pikachu, another really gorgeous card. It stands out a bunch of other cards. It just stands out. It's so different from what we've seen over the course of this year that I really enjoy the cards. So these are the kind of cards that I look for, cards that other cards just cannot compete with. They're just so cool. All right, let's keep it up. We have a wise man who asks, "Hey Jake, I'm interested to know what in your opinion makes the perfect card. Do you have a card or item in your collection that you always find really interesting?" And I would say there's no such thing as a perfect card. I don't have a favorite card. I have a bunch of cards that I enjoy, but if you told me one singular card that is my favorite amongst all other, it's really, really hard for me to pick one. I would say some of my favorite cards over the past couple of years include the Scream promos and the Mario Pikachu set, because these cards stand out to me. Really gorgeous cards, just so different from what we normally see again. All really fantastic cards. They're just outside of the norm. I hate normal cards. If a card looks bland to me, then it's probably not a card that I'm going to collect. I love gorgeous artworks. I love artworks that really stand out. I want it to be the centerpiece of my collection. I want a collection that makes people go, wow, what is this? I've never seen it before. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. How did you get it? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for cards that start conversation. And some of the cards that come out, if they're just a set card, I find that kind of boring. The more difficult or challenging it is to get a card, sometimes those are the cards that I want the most. So what I'm really talking about is some chase cards. Those are really, really cool. Next question, we have Justin Ang, who asks, hey Jake, has the Pokemon Company released an official set list for releases of which Pokemon sets they will be reprinting? Honestly, the Pokemon Company never officially has a list of release schedule for reprints or anything of that sort. They would never do that. It's all in the background. How would you know when a set is fully out of print? To me, I would give most sets a 2-year window for their print cycles. And that's a pretty good rule to stand by inside of your head. And a big part of that is that the Pokemon Company has a yearly rotation, and most sets are competitively in standard in the Pokemon TCG for around 2 years. After that, they rotate out and they're no longer played in the top level tournaments. And if they're no longer played in the top level tournament, I think the Pokemon Company has very few incentive to reprint older sets. They cycle a lot of sets out of standard. There's no real incentive for me right now to see why the Pokemon Company would reprint older sets, and a big part of that is that they have limited number of print runs. That's why we've seen so many shortages when it comes to Pokemon cards, is because they want to print a bunch of different sets, but they just don't have the print run or the capacity to print all these sets. So they have to pick and choose which sets to reprint. And a lot of time it's going to be the modern sets, the most current sets. It's because those sets are currently in standard, being played, and there needs to be a constant supply of those cards for actual players. Next question comes from TTTTTT, who asks, hey Jake, appreciate your informative content and infectious positivity. What source do you use to get news of promo cards being released around the world, mainly Japan? For example, things like Shibuya Pikachu and other promos. A great source would be my own channel. If there's a really cool card that comes out, I'll be the first to tell you, that's for sure. I'm pretty current when it comes to those kind of activities. There's so many other sources for information, and most people aren't keeping track of it. There's the Pokemon TCG subreddit, there's the Discord, there's a bunch of news outlet like PokeGuardian, PokeBeach. There's so many different ways for you to get your sources of information. And unless you're sleeping under a rock, you're most likely going to hear about a really cool card that comes up from any of these sources, Instagram, Facebook. There's so many different places that are doing Pokemon news right now. As soon as a card is revealed, I usually hear about it within a couple of hours from one of these news outlets, and there's so many YouTube channels that are doing news content right now as well. So unless you're under a rock, you probably heard about a new upcoming card months and months in advance. Next question comes from the All Might, who says, hey Jake, how do I get rid of bulk in sufficient way? Can I make a decent amount of money back from bulk? Yes and no. Most LGS or game store will buy bulk from you. They will. But the prices that they buy bulk at is very, very low. Most places will charge you around $5 to $10, or that's what they'll give you for around 1,000 bulk Pokemon cards. And bulk Pokemon cards are the common and uncommon cards, the cards that most of people aren't really searching for. I keep a lot of bulk in my own personal collection because I actually play the TCG, so it's just nice to have some extra cards. And you never know what might be competitively viable. Sometimes a card is not very viable, and then 6 months later it suddenly becomes viable, and a single uncommon card can be worth $3 to $4. So it really depends, but in most cases, a good rule of thumb for me is around 1,000 Pokemon cards will usually sell for around $40 to $50 on eBay. So that's another example that you could do. You could also donate your cards. There's plenty of places that are more than happy to pick up your Pokemon card, and they'll give out to children that would be interested in playing the game. So there's plenty of different options. Next up, we have Zero, who asks, hey Jake, do you think we get alternative arts in Brilliant Stars? And if yes, do you think there will be V-Star alt arts? Haven't heard anything about it. Most likely it's not gonna happen. The Pokemon Company likes to do a lot of variety. They're never stuck on the same idea for too long, and you probably noticed that if you've been following the scene over the last couple of years. There is a constant stream of new variety and types of cards. We have rainbow rare, alternate art, full art, amazing rare, and there is going to be some interesting cards that's coming out in Brilliant Stars, including the character Pokemon cards, where there's a Pokemon and a character inside of the artwork at the same time. These are really popular. They were popular inside of some previous sets like Cosmic Eclipse, so they're bringing it back. The Pokemon company is constantly changing it. I would not expect a type of card or a mechanic to stick around for more than 1 to 2 years. They're just constantly rotating these ideas. Next up, we have Amado Diaz, who asks, "Hey Jake, just want to say I love your channel and the content you've been putting out. My question is in regards to card grading. I know most people prefer PSA and BGS, but the price and wait times make it difficult to send cards out currently. Would you recommend waiting till they reopen back completely and catch up with their backlog, or would you say these smaller grading companies like HGA are worth it as well?" I would say unless you have a strong urge to grade your card for whatever reason, and there could be a lot of reasons. Maybe you're not sure your card is authentic. Maybe you want to have it encapsulated right now to protect it because you're worried about potential damages. Then these are legitimate reasons, and you can go with a less popular grading company because they will do all of those things. They will authenticate your card and they will encapsulate it and protect it for the long term. But if you're not worried about those issues, if your cards are safe and you're planning on keeping them for 10, 20, 30 years down the line, then I would say it is better to wait for PSA and BGS and these more popular companies to open up because they're just more reputable, and at the same time, people tend to be willing to collect, buy, and trade cards from these graders more often than not. So if I have a card and it's a Charizard card or Pikachu promo card and it's graded by PSA, a lot of collectors are willing to trust that and trade it with me rather than a less reputable card grader. So I will usually stick to the more popular sources of card grading. Next question, we have Zbad, who asks, "Hey Jake, what is your take on the value of other Pokemon collectibles outside of the trading card? I know plushies are collectible as well as some of the other memorabilia. There are definitely some other Pokemon collectibles out there. There's two main popular categories. That's pretty much the trading card and the Pokemon games. Because guess what? Most people remember these things. When it comes to Pokemon and nostalgia and collectibles, most people remember the trading card and they remember the games. Those are the two most popular categories. Outside of those categories, you can collect pretty much anything when it comes to Pokemon. I know some people like Real Breaking Nate and Jordan Fringe, they'll collect anything Pokemon, coming from like Pokemon Jam, Pokemon Jelly, Pokemon Cereal, whatever it is. If it's related to Pokemon, they want it inside of those, inside of their collection, and that's a bit more broad. To me, right now, there's two things that I'm collecting and I'm really focusing on. It's the trading cards and the sealed games. Those are really popular. Outside of that, I don't think you need to go much further else. There's some other stuff happening right now like Pokemon Funko, but I don't really enjoy those because there's plenty of Pokemon collectibles to get. There's no reason to pick up a Pokemon Funko to me, and I don't really like their design, so I'll keep it like that. Next up, we have Hope Cat, who asks, "Is it harder to collect master sets in English or Japanese by opening up packs? Are other languages easier, balanced, or just as hard?" There really comes down to pretty much two ways to collect Pokemon cards, especially when it comes to sets. The Japanese sets do tend to be a little bit easier, and a big part of that is that their sets tend to be smaller. Most Japanese sets are under 100 card, which makes it a bit easier to collect the whole entire set. The English side, our sets are much bigger. Most of our sets are over 200 cards, so it is very challenging to collect most English sets. But outside of that, in international, the other sets or the other languages tend to follow either English or Japanese. The Korean sets and the Chinese sets usually follow the Japanese format. For French and Spanish, they'll usually follow the English format. So they're not so different. Their sets are pretty much the same as the English or Japanese set, just in a different language. Next question, we have Shane who says, hey Jake, would you recommend buying on eBay rather than the card shops? Because I've been to 3 different LCS near me, which is in Canada, but I could have gotten my items for cheaper on eBay, and that really depends. There is no one source that sells the most affordable Pokemon cards all the time. You have to be a really savvy shopper. Different websites, different LCS will have different deals going on at different time. There's no one source that always has the best Pokemon card prices. That's just not gonna happen. Personally for me, I shop around quite a bit. If I'm looking for a product, I will check 4 to 5 sites, and that could be Amazon, eBay, TCG Player, StockX, any number of sites. I'll check them all, get an understanding of what prices are at, and I'll probably buy wherever it's cheapest, depending on whatever preference I have right now. So it really depends. Sometimes I have eBay bucks, sometimes TCG Players having a deal. It really depends. You have to be a savvy shopper. If you find that eBay has cheaper prices than your LCS, bring it up with your LCS. Sometimes they're willing to price match, especially if your ask is reasonable. Next question comes from Katie, who asks, hey Jake, do you have a monthly budget for purchases? I recently set mine for $300 since I would previously drop over $1,000 a month. Ooh, I definitely understand that. There's been periods in my life where I would drop $4,000 or $5,000 on Pokemon cards in a single given month, but there are also periods where I go for months and months and months without making any major purchases at all. So it really depends. Nowadays, I don't have a strict budget that I follow, but I do have some reasonable expectations for how much I'm spending, and I keep mental note of it. So in general, sometimes when there's a really, really cool product, I'll go over my budget, and sometimes there's just nothing I want, so I'm not really spending any dollars. Would I have a personal budget? I would say maybe $1,000 a month is my budget. I usually never go past that. I haven't gone past that in a long time, and a big part of that is mainly due to grading companies being closed and so many products being out of production right now or out of supply right now. I do expect things to return to a norm going into 2022, and I'll be able to really focus down again and start narrowing down and start being really selective about what I collect and seeing what has the most potential value. So that's what I love doing. It's really fun to hunt and find hidden gems. It's just a thrill for me. Next question, we have Alex Hunter who asks, would you recommend for people that don't have that big of a budget? So another budget question. There are so many good products and exclusive that sometimes it becomes impossible to keep up with all. I totally understand that. Personally, don't collect everything. It's not really possible. There's too many products out there. There's so much abundance when it comes to collectibles. You're not going to be able to collect everything, and you probably don't want everything. There are some things that you enjoy more than other. It's just recognizing what do you enjoy. Collect what you like. Don't try to collect everything. Don't worry about the FOMO. I don't really worry about FOMO anymore. There's plenty of products out there. If I can't pick up an ultra premium collection, there's other products that are just as desirable. I'm not limited by the amount of products out there. I'm limited most likely by my own cash flow. I just don't have enough money to collect everything. And even if I did, I don't have the room to display and store it all. I don't want everything. So if you have a limited budget, and I'm sure you are, then you have to be really narrow about what you want to buy. Focus on what you enjoy the absolute most. And you're going to have to determine that over the next couple of months and years. You discover that as you are a collector. Some of the things that I really enjoy, I enjoy some steel products, and those steel products tend to be the attractive one. The more attractive a steel product is, the more likely I want to collect it. I also like attractive cards. Really, really gorgeous cards to me tend to be Pikachu promos because they're so different, they're so unique, they're so out there. There's nothing like them in most sets, so that's what I enjoy. But if you don't enjoy those, I totally understand. If you have a preference, then go with that preference, whatever it is. It could be 4 trainer cards, could be rainbow rare, whatever it is. Focus on what you enjoy most. All right, everybody, that's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I was able to answer some of your guys' questions. And if you have additional questions, I will reply to as many of them as I possibly can. If you want to make sure that your questions are answered, and if you want to make sure that you have an instant connection to me, then definitely join my membership, because I always respond to member, and it's a great way to support me by buying me a coffee every single month. It's super affordable. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.